sound of the trailer alarms because the first teaser for Agatha All Along just dropped. Oh, really? No alarm sound? Alright, fine, I'll just have to go on without it. But this really surprised me. I wasn't expecting the show to look this good. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed WandaVision. I think it's a great series up until the underwhelming finale, but that doesn't take away anything that came before it. It's still a good, solid show. Kathryn Hahn is an absolute delight and steals every scene she's in as Agatha. She chews all the scenery. She's delightful. I always will enjoy watching her perform. But all that being said, when Agatha was announced a few years ago, I didn't really see the point of it. I wasn't excited for it. It was just kind of there amongst all these other projects that I was hyped for. But I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. There's clearly a reason they had to do it, and I was willing to wait it out and see what they were cooking up. Like me personally, whenever somebody says, oh, who asked for this project? I think that's a bad mentality because it stifles art and creative freedom. Like there are people saying, who asked for this after Guardians of the Galaxy was announced? And then it turned out to be the MCU's best trilogy in the long run. People were asking that when Iron Man was announced. It's a very toxic mindset to have, just to say, who asked for this, and turn down a project just because it's not something you want. Because just because you don't want it doesn't mean someone else does. Even though I wasn't excited for Agatha when it was announced, I saw a bunch of people online who were excited, so I was happy for them. And the MCU is going in a direction that resembles the comics more, to where if you're not interested in a project, you can just tune out. You can go watch something you want to watch. And I like that a lot. Just kind of develop these little corners for different audiences. Instead of just one single vision where you're trying to appease everyone, now you can appease different demographics, different markets, and I think that's really smart. And I'm happy to report now that they are cooking up something special here. This trailer absolutely blew away all my expectations. I was not prepared for the show to look this good and have so many different interesting things going on in it. Like, this trailer absolutely restored my faith in the series and gave me hope that this could be genuinely one of the best MCU series. Now, I know we've said that before. I probably said that after the first Secret Invasion trailer, but I think that at this point, Marvel has learned their lessons and they're willing to give creatives more freedom, and especially with a show like Agatha, you're not going to do that if there isn't a reason behind it. So I'm really interested to see what that is, and this trailer did a lot to get my hype levels up from pretty much zero to excited for this series. Now I'm actually looking forward to this fall. So let's look through this trailer. Let me just give you a few of my thoughts on what I think was going on here. Just kind of talk through my instant thoughts on the project as a whole, because there's a lot going on here that I think is worth talking about. My biggest takeaway from the trailer is by far the horror vibes of the series. I love everything that is going for it. Genuinely caught me off guard how scary it seems to be. I know it's leaning more on that fun horror comedy aspect of it all, but I think that just seeing all these different demons and monsters and bugs flying out of people's faces, or a possessed body contorting around on the ground like that, it really just showed me that they're going to be leaning into the horror aspects of the series, which I think is good, because we don't really have an MCU project that is fully committed to horror like this besides something like Werewolf by Night. I know Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness danced around with the idea of it. There's horror sequences in it, but it's more so an action movie with a scary scene in it because it's Sam Raimi and he's going to cook with the horror. But here you have a full-on horror series, which I am beyond excited for. That is what I think has me the most interested in this series, that it's going to be something new and fresh with a horror tone, because we do not get to see that nearly enough in the MCU, so I'm glad that they're finally going to be showing that in a way that we haven't seen before. The whole tone is just fantastic. I love a horror comedy. I feel like we don't get enough of them out there because it's such a hard thing to balance with some really scary frights and then like a fun, campy tone, but I think this is the perfect series to kind of do that with, because Agatha is a very unserious character in a good way, so leaning more into these horror elements is going to go a long way in making her stand out from other MCU projects that might feel the same tonally. Even just looking at the start of the trailer here with that detective story that seems to be going on when Agatha is back in her Agnes persona and she's just a citizen of Westview. I like that she's kind of lost and doesn't have a purpose anymore because Wanda wipes her memories and removes her powers, and now she doesn't know what she's doing. So it's fitting that she's a detective because she can't solve her own problems, so she's going to solve other people's. And I just think that's a fun little almost meta commentary in a way about the character. But me personally, I'm a sucker for detective stories. I love mysteries, so having this series open in that sense is fascinating to me. I will always watch anything that is a detective story. But here in this case, it looks like while Agnes is doing this detecting, she stumbles upon a corpse of none other than Wanda Maximoff. We know she's technically dead. They quote-unquote killed her off in Multiverse of Madness, but I don't think it's a hot take to say that that's obviously not Wanda. She was made into mincemeat when she crushed herself between two mountains, so there's no way that that's her. Her body would not be in that shape after that kind of death. So right now my working theory is that it's either Agatha being haunted by her locked away memories and they're trying to break through and she reads it saying Wanda Maximoff when it says something completely different, or what I think is more likely, given who's in the scene, is that it's an illusion caused by Aubrey Plaza's character, who we'll get to later, as she's trying to snap her out of the spell. So she writes Wanda's name on there with an illusion spell, hoping to sort of break Agatha out by giving her a familiar name from her past, and it would snap her out of it. And I think that could be the way it goes, because that's where we see her break free from this spell in this morgue type. So that's my working theory now, that Aubrey Plaza is just trying to snap her out of it and get her back to that witch lifestyle, because she needs her for some ulterior motive, which I genuinely have no clue. Because Because most interestingly enough, Aubrey Plaza, what am I doing here? Aubrey Plaza has been confirmed to be playing a character named Rio Vidal. Now, if you don't know who that is, you're not alone because she's not from the comics. They've made someone up new for the MCU, which makes sense because it's an Agatha show. She doesn't exactly have a rogues gallery. She is the villain all the time, so having to introduce a new character makes a lot of sense. I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a fun way to expand on this lore. But Rio Vidal is set to become the first Green Witch. So obviously we've got the Scarlet Witch in Wanda Maximoff. She's sandwiched between two mountains right now, so she's not exactly coming back anytime soon. So I like the idea of kind of expanding the Scarlet Witch lore and adding this Green Witch in. It doesn't need to become overcomplicated. You don't need a witch for every color, but just like a Scarlet Witch, a Green Witch. I think that's a fun idea, and I think that she's gonna kill it. Aubrey Plaza is an incredibly talented actress. Probably noticed all the Parks and Rec clips I put in my videos because I think she's so much fun and I will watch anything she's in. I mean this in the nicest way possible. She's an absolute freak, so it's so fitting that she appears in the freaky Marvel show. Really excited for her character. Whatever evil thing she's about to do, I'm fully prepared to support her on because I support women's wrongs just as much as women's rights. So the Green Witch can do whatever she wants and I think that's okay. She's allowed to. In a lot of ways, it's really easy to see how this is the spiritual successor to WandaVision because they're really leaning into the supernatural storytelling of it all, and I think that's a great idea because the supernatural corner of the MCU has hardly been touched on. You've only gotten in projects like the Doctor Strange movies, a little bit in Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, but you've never had like a project completely dive into this world of witchcraft because WandaVision was more so about this exploration of grief and trauma, and they had the witchy elements in there towards the end. But now we have this fully fledged series just completely diving into it and uncovering how witchcraft works in the MCU, which I think is going to be really fun to watch because I'm really excited just to see how they expand on that and show us this history of different covens throughout the MCU's past and how it all leads up to this new lore they're developing, which is a little foreshadowing here, isn't even from the comics, which is really interesting. There's a lot of potential here that I think could result in a series that's pretty unique, and that is always what gets me most interested in a project. Anytime a series or a movie in the MCU is doing something we haven't seen before, I'm immediately interested. I don't want to see things do the same thing every time because that's going to get boring and repetitive. We've seen that before a little bit during Phase 2 when projects are getting a little homogenous, and then you have the culture shock to the system that was Guardians of the Galaxy and Captain America the Winter Soldier. You need to keep doing things that are new and fresh to keep audiences interested. So here, I'm really excited just to watch how this all plays out because I think that there's a lot of potential in expanding this different side of the universe to new corners and showing us new characters, new tones, new environments, new dimensions, anything, whatever it may be that they're doing. I like that it's new, and I feel like that's what you should be excited in. I don't understand when people don't want to watch something because it's not familiar. That's why you should want to watch something. It's going to be this unfamiliar new experience, and that is always what gets me the most excited for a show. So I'm immediately hooked right off the bat just because of seeing this trailer and all the different exciting things they're going to be bringing into the show. Besides the great visuals and understanding the tone, this teaser trailer doesn't really give you much of a premise for what the plot is supposed to be, which obviously is the point. They want to still keep that a mystery, but just kind of give you an idea of what you can expect from the show. But looking through the trailer piece by piece, the synopsis, I think I've been able to piece it together and understand what this show is going to be about. If I read the synopsis here, this really just kind of spells it out. But it says here, and I quote, "The infamous Agatha Harkness finds herself down and out of power after a suspicious goth teen helps break her free from a distorted spell. Her interest is piqued when he begs her to take him on the legendary Witch's Road, a magical gauntlet of trials that, if survived, rewards a witch with what they're missing. Together, Agatha and this mysterious teen pull together a desperate coven and set off down, down, down the road." That sounds pretty interesting to me. I like the idea of it all, and they're bringing this huge element from the comics known as the Witch's Road, as you can tell. So, from what we can understand from this teaser here, Billy Kaplan, aka Wiccan, aka Wanda's son, he might not even be real. I have no idea how they're going to make him like a real person, because obviously he was not real inside the Hex, so maybe his spirit is inhabiting this body or something. If they want to go this weird supernatural route, I'd be all for it. I think the weirder you can get, the better with a show like this. But whatever the case may be, he can't find his mom, and he's trying to figure out what to do. He goes to Agatha for help because she knows this better than anybody. So he finds Agatha and he asks her, specifically in the trailer here, that he wants her help going down the Witch's Road. Now, the Witch's Road is a huge thing that was recently added in the Scarlet Witch comics all the way back in 2016. So this is a pretty recent addition, less than a decade old, but it's basically this different path that is a plane of existence where only sorcerers can tread. So he needs Agatha's help. She's going to walk down the Witch's Road for him because he's not a sorcerer yet, and he wants her to go find Wanda, I assume, to kind of answer the questions. As for the future of the MCU, I think right here they're going to be doing a lot of setup for the Young Avengers series or movie or whatever happens there, but basically I think they're going to be adapting the Children's Crusade story from the comic, which is basically this arc where his powers are getting erratic, they're going out of control, and he needs to find his mom for help, but she's missing, so he goes down and gets Magneto's help, which I doubt is going to happen in this. It seems that they've replaced Magneto with Agatha, which makes sense, and he's trying to find her at the end of the Witch's Road, and it's this big story where it puts him against the Young Avengers and the Avengers. It's this huge sprawling epic, and I think that they're going to be kind of doing this as as a prequel in a sense. I don't think they're just going to be doing the exact story here, but I think they're going to be setting the groundwork for the actual Children's Crusade movie, which is probably going to be like a Scarlet Witch and Young Avengers story, which I think is a good idea. I think it'll be really interesting to see the Young Avengers come into the fray in the MCU at this point, because they're one of my favorite teams. I've read a few of their comics and I really like their dynamic. Obviously, I'm a huge Kate Bishop fan. If you've been around on the channel long enough, you know that. I'm really interested to see her team up with Wiccan here, along with Ms. Marvel, Cassie Lang. There's a lot of potential for these as a team, and I think it's really obvious that this is the direction they're going in the future. I think you make her sign really special. It seems to me that this series, along with pushing forward the boundaries of the MCU in terms of horror, tone, supernatural storytelling, it's also going to be laying the groundwork for some really big stuff to come, which I think is what it should be doing. I know a lot of people wrote this off at first because it's an Agatha series. Why would you ever want to see that? But I think it's going to become one of the more important series going forward in the MCU. I'm really hopeful that they've learned their lessons from past series and they allowed the creative team to cook. There's not going to be too many studio executives meddling with it, and they just allowed this vision to come to life. And we get this series that offers something new to the MCU in terms of world building, in terms of lore. There's a lot of potential for this show to be something special. And I do really hope it's not a case of the trailer tricking us, because that's happened many times before. But I do think that there's something here. There's a good creative team behind this. You've got some really interesting ideas at play. If they just allow things to cook a little longer, we could get a really good show. As someone who didn't see the point of this show existing, I've always had an open mind about it, and I think this has validated that for me, and I'm much more open to seeing how they handle the series and the character going forward. I'm just excited for the MCU to take these familiar characters and concepts and expand on them. Anything can be good. And I think if you're an MCU fan, the lesson you've had to learn over the years is to give them the benefit of the doubt, because they've taken these D-list characters and they've turned them into household names. Regardless of your stance on the MCU at this point, I think we should just give them a chance. Let's see how it all works out, because I really think that this will be a great series that I think we should all be looking forward to. This has completely turned me around on the project. I'm really looking forward to when this drops over the fall. It'll be a great Halloween companion, and should, if done right, add a lot of interesting world building to the MCU. They've got my attention now, so they better not blow it. Oh my god. Oh, that scared me. Whew. Okay, that was terrible. Why was that so delayed? That took forever. I need to go lie down after that and read up on the Children's Crusade seemingly, so I'm gonna end the video there. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to let me know what you thought of the trailer down below. Did it make you more or less excited for the series? I'm really interested to see what everyone has to say, because somehow this series has become controversial already, but I hope people are willing to give it a chance, especially after how good this trailer looked. If you want to see more videos like this, you can click right here, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. If you don't do it, I'm gonna put a spell on you that forces you to do it anyway, so you may as well do it on your own.